Cowboys Nation, the Dallas Cowboys win on Thursday night prime football, defeating the Seattle Seahawks 41-35. It's late. Let's talk about it.
Prescott, touchdown. Throw, looking middle, sacked again by Parsons again. CD Lamb, was he down? They say no for now, and he's into the end zone.
Be sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more Cowboys content. As we jump into this game, I'm still trying to digest this game. So much happened, and obviously the Cowboys win, right? They found a way to win. Now, let me say this. Everyone has credited the Philadelphia Eagles for finding ways to win. If we're going by that criteria, I better hear the praises tomorrow morning about this Dallas Cowboys team. They did a lot to deserve to lose this game, but they also did a lot to win this game. There were a lot of plays made, a lot of playmakers, and a lot of players bounced back. The Cowboys' best players made mistakes early on in the game, and they redeemed themselves, and they showed up in the crucial moments. I was very worried halfway through this game, towards the end of this game, of whether this team was lacking a clutch gene. We know they're talented. We know they can play well. We know they can put up points. But something that you need in the game of football, or just in any kind of sports, is you need a clutch gene. You need to be clutch in big moments. And this game, despite the turnovers, but despite the penalties, despite the poor situational football play calling, despite the suspect defense, it's not even suspect. It's a concern. The Dallas Cowboys showed up in the moments that were most crucial. There were significant moments in this game, and if they would have showed up then, we're probably not that close to the end. But in the crucial moments where it really mattered, whether it really just lingered on, if you make this play, this is a win or a loss. And the thing that you could take away, despite the frustration, is that the Cowboys did something that they haven't in a while, probably in the past few seasons, and they showed up in those moments, those specific moments towards the end of the game. And I'm proud. This is a game you don't normally win. You look at the stat sheet, and of course we'll jump into it, but my initial reaction is the Cowboys found a way to win. And if you're going to toot the horn of the Philadelphia Eagles and other teams out there that find ways to win, even though it looks ugly, it's messy, you did a lot that hurt yourself, but analysts and media praise teams that find a way to win, especially the Philadelphia Eagles, and the Cowboys found a way to win against a team that was desperate. Now, that is something that I overlooked in my pregame prediction video about how desperate this team would be, and I'm talking about the Seattle Seahawks coming into this game 6-5. They played their tails off. There was a little bit of help, but I mean, it was on both sides of the ball in terms of the penalty. But that's not even going to be an excuse. I mean, they made this defense look, I don't even know the word for it. They made this defense look ridiculous. They made them look fraudulent. There's the word. We were led to believe that this defense was stout, that possibly the Doomsday defense could return, that it could get takeaways, could get turnovers, can generate pressure, generate sacks. Look, they didn't do that consistently for the first 50 minutes of this football game. But when it mattered, they did show up and they did close out this game. But for the most part, the Seattle Seahawks hung 35 points on this defense and made them look fraudulent. I had my doubts through this game about this defense, wondering, well, hold up. I thought this defense was supposed to be better. And the Seahawks were just passing the ball and all over us, and they were running the ball at times, and Geno Smith looked great against us at times. I was really dumbfounded. I really was. It was a mixture of frustration and anger watching that first half, and screw it, the first three quarters, the first 48 minutes of this game, not believing what I was seeing and how poor this defense was playing against this type of team, against the Seahawks. And I'll stand by what I said. I don't believe the Seahawks are going to be making it to the playoffs when all is said and done. I don't think they're going to have an above 500 record. And that's my prediction, and that's where I see with the Seattle Seahawks team. But there's a lot to go over in this game, and I want to know what you guys think. Do you feel confident after seeing the Cowboys get this win, or do you feel uneasy about this team going into a really big time matchup against the Philadelphia Eagles? But on a this one's going to be a long post game reaction. I'm just going to tell you, this one's going to be a long post game reaction because there's a lot to talk about. But let's talk about one of the main positives, one of the most consistent things about this team. And honestly, I never thought I'd say this, but Dak Prescott has been incredible, has been nothing but incredible. And tonight's game was an MVP night for him. I had to sit back for a week and hear everyone criticize and scrutinize Dak Prescott's incredible play over the past 6 weeks because he hadn't done it against any good teams. And if you look at any consistent part and the main reason why this team won the game tonight, it's because of number 4. It's because of Dak Prescott. Offensively, he kept this team in the game. When the defense was faltering, who was there to keep this team inside the loop, to keep them competitive, to give them a chance? It was always Dak Prescott. And for another night, Dak Prescott doesn't turn over the ball, and he gives his team the best chance to win in a very crucial game. And again, we kept hearing critics talk about how Dak Prescott cannot do this against 500+ teams. He can't do this against good teams. Well, by that criteria, the Seattle Seahawks came in 6-5, one game over 500. And let's take a look at Dak Prescott's stats. 29 of 41, 299 yards, 3 touchdowns, 0 turnovers, 0 interceptions. And something I saw from Dak Prescott that I normally don't see, he had incredible pocket presence, in my opinion. There were times where I thought the Seahawks were very close to getting Dak Prescott and stripping him from behind or anything like that. But the way Dak Prescott was able to maneuver around the pocket, I mean, I look at this game and the defense, stood up in the moments that they were supposed to. CeeDee Lamb bounced back and overall had a great game. And Brandon Aubrey hit the field goals that he was supposed to. But hands down, the best player on the Dallas Cowboys right now is Dak Prescott, and he has been for the past 6 weeks. He's playing lights out, and according to the criteria that media and analysts want an MVP quarterback to be at, Dak Prescott crossed off one of those things on that list tonight. He performed in clutch moments, and you got to look at that final drive when we were down 35-30. The defense gives the Cowboys offense a chance, and Dak Prescott was calm, cool, collected, cool like the other side of the pillow, and took his team down the field. And he even flexed on the Seahawks too. See how he's playing with a little bit of attitude as well? That's how you know Dak Prescott is feeling himself. And it looked like he was having fun out there, and he knew how good this offense was and how well they were going to be. And that's something we haven't seen, honestly. The way he was just to have the confidence in that final drive and then hit the pass to Jake Ferguson to take the lead and then do the 2-point conversion to Brandon Cooks to take the 41-35 lead, or the 38-35 lead, excuse me. Dak Prescott, man, tip your hat to this guy, number 4. He's playing out of his mind, and just really, I'm astonished about what he's doing on a weekly basis. And you've heard it said, but the MVP award will be Dak Prescott, will be his award if he continues this play for the next few weeks against the Eagles, against the Bills, against the Dolphins, against the Lions. And like I said, this schedule is increasing in intensity. And, the Seahawks were the first of many, and now we got a big game against the Eagles. But for Dak Prescott to show up like this, I mean, there really wasn't a time where I thought, yeah, that's on Dak. Yeah, that's a bad play. There's a couple of sacks that happened during the game, but, that's just poor offensive line play. But Tony Pollard, 20 carries, 68 yards, kind of getting that confidence going. Got in the end zone as well. CeeDee Lamb, 12 receptions, 116 yards, 1 touchdown. He scared us there for a few moments when he dropped that really important pass on fourth down. Now, if he catches that, it's a totally different story, but he dropped it. But it's kind of one of those things, even watching it in play, I was frustrated like everybody else, but I felt like if CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott were going to have another chance, they were going to make it count, and that's exactly what we did. I feel like that connection, their ability to rebound is underrated. And when I saw that miscatch, I was like, boy, the Seahawks better not let these boys get the ball back, because CeeDee and Dak will make them pay, and that's exactly what they did. I feel like they exclusively went to CeeDee Lamb in that final drive, which is exactly what you want to do as a play caller, as an offensive coordinator, is in the crucial moments, don't mess it up. Give it to your best players, and that's exactly what Dak Prescott, Mike McCarthy, Brian Schottenheimer, CeeDee Lamb did on that final drive, and that is something that you can take away. That's something that they didn't do against the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, looking back at that Eagles game, we could have won that, right? We were inside the 10, and I saw them learning from that mistake with this drive right here. It came pretty close. Remember that the delay of game that they had? I was like, oh boy, man, here we go again. Not this. Please no. But they learned from it. They were composed. They gathered themselves, and they threw it in the end zone. That's one of the most important things that you can do. And I'm just super proud that they were able to learn from those mistakes, bounce back, get back in the win column, or get back and be competitive and execute in that way. And Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, Jake Ferguson had a great game. And it's been really something to see Jake grow into the player that he is. For the past couple of weeks, he's been feisty. He's been physical. Almost like he's setting the tone in a physicality way for this offense. I mean, he's getting in Jamal Adams' face. He's lowering his helmet. He's lowering his shoulder to get the extra yards. And dare I say, he looks like another 87 in the NFL. Someone that something that we all know. Kind of looks like Travis Kelce. I'm not going to lie. And it's no surprise that Travis Kelce called Jake Ferguson out a couple of years ago. I think it was last year, saying that he's probably one of the young talented tight ends to come out of the league. And Jake looked really great tonight. 6 receptions, 77 yards, and the touchdown to take the lead in the game. Brandon Cooks gets a touchdown, 4 receptions for 45 yards. Now let's talk about this defense, and be sure to like and subscribe, because we're just getting started. I still got a few things to talk about. And of course, please let me know your opinions down below. This was a crucial game, and a lot of us maybe thought that this was going to be one way and the Cowboys were going to take care of business. I thought the same. I thought they were going to win 37-20. I didn't think it was going to be 41-35. So a lot to digest, and a lot's not going to be talked about in this post-game reaction video. But thankfully, the Cowboys have a long break here, a little mini bye before they take on the Philadelphia Eagles. But let's talk about this defense. Jonathan Hankins got in for a sack, and that was the only sack of the day. Now, my prediction in my pregame prediction was that we were going to get 2 sacks. I just felt like the Seahawks were going to be ready offensively. They knew how to isolate Micah Parsons and knew how to isolate the pass rush that was coming, and that's exactly what they did. They did a really good job. You got to tip your hat to the Seattle Seahawks. They game planned really well. They studied the film really well. They looked at all the weak points that this defense had in the past couple of weeks, and they exploited them. I mean, it was no easy contest for the Dallas Cowboys defensively. I mean, again, the Seahawks dropped 35 points on the Cowboys at home. That was not only the most that this defense has let up this year, it was the most that they let up at home. I mean, the Seahawks came ready to play, and they gave this defense a run for their money, and they looked lost at some points. They looked, they didn't look as physical in that first half. They didn't look as aggressive. It was just, they looked confused some of the times. And I don't know if that's DQ's game plan, or if it was just what the Seahawks were doing, or, if it was just a combination of the two. But I'm glad we got the win, because it would be a harder discussion and a harder conversation if we got the loss. But this defense is, and I said this the past couple of weeks, and if you've watched my pregame and my postgame reaction videos, I've said this. I feel like this defense, the way it was performing, it was flying under the radar because they were playing less than talented teams, less than average teams. They weren't getting takeaways. They weren't getting to the quarterback, and the short game passing was really being effective against this defense. And tonight, all those things came up. Now, I hope it's something that they can learn from, because I think we got the talent for this defense to be better, and it comes down to execution. But, I mean, there's so many questionable coaching decisions out there in terms of the defense. I mean, some of the times we're playing soft zone, soft coverage, like it's 3rd and 7. It's not 3rd and 17. Why are we playing 5-10 yards off of the receiver? We're giving Tyler Lockett free space to run a 5 and out, 10 and out. We're giving DK Metcalf an opportunity to come back to the ball and get an easy catch for 7 yards. I felt like defensively, from a secondary standpoint, a lot of the things were just way too easy. And that's a coaching decision, because a lot of that was pre-snap, before even the ball was snapped, and you're giving them 7-10 yards before they can even run their route. And I saw a lot of that even towards the end of the game, but as it got towards the end of the game, they pressured, they got closer, and you saw some great plays by Deron Bland. Jordan Lewis had a couple of important passes batted down, and then Stephon Gilmore as well. So, look, I still got question marks about this defense, because they should have been better than they were tonight. And there's been a few concerns that I've seen in this winning streak. And granted, it's been against really bad teams, but now we're really going to see what this team is. We're really going to know what we got here, guys, because we performed this way and it was this close at home. After the Eagles game, you got 2 road games against the Bills in Buffalo and the Dolphins, who are a high passing attack. I mean, if Geno Smith and the Seahawks and DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett are doing this to us and putting up 35 points, you got to prepare to go on the road against Miami, against Tua Tagovailoa, who's in the conversation for the MVP race. But, oh, yeah, also he has Tyreek Hill, who's probably my favorite to win the MVP, and then Jalen Waddle on the other side. And then you got a nice running attack with Raheem Mostert. Oh, yeah, and that's just one of them, right? Because the week before you got Josh Allen, you got Stephon Diggs, and then the week before that you got Jalen Hurts again, you got A.J. Brown, you got Devontae Smith. This is only going to get tougher. This is only going to get harder. And it's a win tonight. Yes, I know, but I'm your unbiased, realistic Cowboys fan. And like Zach Martin said earlier this year, this is where the real football picks up. This is where it begins. And this is where you got to key in, because this was low-key a playoff game. This was low-key a playoff game. The season ended today. Now, I know in my pregame prediction video, I felt like it wasn't going to be, but if the season ended today, the Seahawks would have been the 7th seed or the 6th seed, and the Cowboys would have been the 5th seed. Now, granted, on that playoff format, they're not playing each other, but technically these two teams are in the playoffs. So if they're playing right now, it's technically a preview of a playoff matchup of 2 playoff teams playing each other, and this is how we play. Too close, but in those moments, they did show up, like Micah Parsons, right? Really quiet for most of the game, but untouched. I don't know what the Seahawks were doing there, but untouched. He comes in, disrupts the play, calls game. Micah Parsons stepped up in that moment. Deron Bland obviously got burnt like toast most of the first half. All of the first half, made a play that really made a difference. Granted, it didn't turn into any points, and that's what we're going to talk about here in a bit, is that situational coach play calling. But and then Osa Odigizua making a play as well. Saw Sam Williams in there quite a bit. Jordan Lewis making a play. I was really actually happy to see Jordan Lewis make a couple of plays. But let's talk about this coaching, because I tweeted about it, or I posted about it. I guess that's what you call it now on X. And be sure to comment down below your thoughts about coaching. I got some problems with the coaching. And I'll call it out because I'm your unbiased and realistic Cowboys fan, and I feel like we can get there. And I know a lot of you are like, Kyle, we won. It's week 13. We won. Relax. We're 9-3. We're on a winning streak. We're undefeated at home. No, because I'm worried about the playoff games. I'm worried about taking that extra step. And there's things that you can learn in this game that can help you, but there's also trends that I saw in this game that worried me, that I don't know if it's fixable. I hate to be a Debbie Downer, but why are we committing penalties? That was a problem 2 seasons ago, right? It's one thing to have it happen one season and then that be the DNA of your season, but then you get it new players, right? New players come in. Obviously, the overall look of the team stays remotely the same, but you get new players, right? New coaching changes. Why is it that not the next year, but this year, so 2 years later, We're one of the most penalized teams in the NFL. I told you guys this, and I feel like I'm flashing back 2 years ago. I personally feel like penalties is a reflection of the lack of discipline from your head coach. There is not an attention to detail when it comes to these penalties, and it killed the Cowboys in the first half. And we've seen that story way too much. And it's killed the Cowboys. Killed the Cowboys where they're completely limp in the first half and they have to do everything they can to fight back in the second half. Thankfully, we played the 6-5, now 6-6 Seattle Seahawks. But you're not going to have that same kind of test when you play the 10-1 Philadelphia Eagles, or you're going to play the Miami Dolphins or the Detroit Lions, or whoever you're going to play in the playoffs. They got to be better. And I'm fearful that this is actually just a coaching philosophy. We're deep into this where now we can talk about these issues where it's not like a first year head coach thing. It's not like our first rodeo with Mike McCarthy. That concerns me. Spotlight's on. We know this is a big game. The players know this is a big game, and you get in your way. It's like they almost know, and then they start committing these awful penalties and these boneheaded plays. And it's not even anything like, I don't know what's a small penalty, but it's the offsides, the simple things, the details. It's just disappointing, and it was very frustrating to see, and it made me angry seeing that the first half, and then it kind of lingered into the third quarter. But then let's talk about the situational moments. There's one moment where Mike McCarthy decides not to go for two to tie the game up. I believe it was going to be 28-28. I'm not going to be as critical on that specific play because I felt like it was early in the third quarter and you kind of have confidence in your offense and your defense to play it out. That because, they could score 2-3 touchdowns, the Cowboys, and they could win the game, and that ultimately doesn't matter. But comment down below what you think about that decision. I know a lot of people were critical about that when I was following the game early on in the third quarter. Me personally, I was okay with it. It was going to be 28-27 or something like that. But the one that I have a problem with is they get the interception from Deron Bland. And then it's 4th and 2 or 4th and 3. And if Brandon Aubrey kicks the field goal, it's a 48-yard field goal. And they would take the lead with that field goal. But instead, Mike McCarthy on 4th and 2 calls a pass. DAK throws to CD. CD drops it. Now, of course, that's a completely different story. If CD catches it, but he doesn't, he drops it. In my opinion, you just made the play of the game, Deron Bland, at that point. You made the play of the game, and the momentum has shifted because up to that point, the Seahawks had scored before halftime with that crazy 1 minute, 30-second sequence, and then they just ran the ball and drove down all the way to the field against you coming out of halftime. So to get a pick after, especially on Deron Bland, who's been burnt most of the first half, all the first half, it's a shift of momentum. You got to walk away with something positive at that point. I understand the aggressiveness, and if you guys know me, I like going for it on 4th down. But in that moment, you have to give your team some sort of juice and say, okay, we're going to walk away with points, and better, we're going to walk away with the lead. Granted, it didn't really matter because the Seahawks then went down the field and scored again. But I'm interested to know what you think about that. That was actually one of the things that I did not like. Lastly, I hated the play call. 1 minute, 40 seconds to go, and we throw it. And we throw it to CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb tries to draw the penalty, tries to draw the flag, the defensive pass interference, when we could have ran the ball, killed the 40 seconds, then kick the field goal, then give it to Geno Smith and the Seahawks with no timeouts with a minute and 11 seconds or whatever it may have been. That's something that they did against the Philadelphia Eagles on Christmas Eve last year. Just poor situational football. Again, it's the Seahawks, and I think we got away with that. But when you're playing a higher caliber team, potentially the Philadelphia Eagles, and you're only up by 6, and you give Jalen Hurts and the Eagles the ball with a minute and 40 seconds, and all they need is a touchdown, that's way too much time. Just run the ball, and I hate it because in the offseason, Mike talked about running the football. And in that moment, we get rid of Kellen Moore for moments like that. And then we believe in Mike McCarthy to do the right thing in situational football. It may be boring. It may not be the thing that everyone wants to do, but it's the smart and the right thing to do, and he didn't do it. Again, you give that ball to Josh Allen, you give that ball to Patrick Mahomes, you give that ball to Lamar Jackson, you give that ball to anybody else that's not the Seattle Seahawks. 1 minute, 40 seconds is way too much time, even with no timeouts. We've seen horror stories. I know we got PTSD about Aaron Rodgers having 30 seconds and beating us twice. So I hated it, man. I hated it. Just things like that are concerning to me. Things like that, details like that matter to me at this point, because this is every game from here on out's a playoff game. It's a playoff game, except the Commanders. But everything from here is a playoff game, and that's how it should be treated. Granted, we got the win. We got everything. We did what we needed to do, and our playmakers made plays in the moment. But if we can do something where it doesn't come to that, I want that. And you're a better team for it if you could do it. Imagine this game if there's no penalties, if we play better defense, if we're more disciplined, if we have a better game plan defensively. Again, if we're not committing penalties, if we do the right thing in situational football moments. I personally don't think this game is 41-35. I still think the Seahawks score, maybe 20-plus points. But the Cowboys maybe win this by more than 6, and they cover that spread that they had before the game, which was 9 points. So, hate to be a Debbie Downer, but I feel like we're at that point of the season where we have to be this critical. We have to be this critical because 2 years ago, we got dropped out of the wild card. Last year, we got dropped out of the divisional round. And there's a lot of play from these players that is meaning something. Like Dak Prescott easily having an MVP season, and he just continued that tonight. You don't want to spoil that. You don't want to ruin that. And we got playmakers like Micah Parsons, who's playing incredible. You don't want to ruin that. We got Dan Quinn, who we're fortunate and lucky enough to have back for a season. You don't want to waste that. So this is where I'm coming from. CeeDee Lamb having a great season. You don't want to waste that. Brandon Cooks finally coming into himself and his identity in this offense. You don't want to ruin that. You don't want to waste that. So that's why I'm so critical. But again, I'm so glad the Cowboys won. I told you this post-game reaction was going to be long. I told you it was going to be long. But on a confidence level, 1 to 10, how confident does this team make you after winning tonight? I'm glad they got the win. You're not going to hear me complain too much. You're not going to hear me complain too much when they've won. Believe me, if they lost, it would have been worse. But that's where I'm at with this team. I'm glad, thank God they won. I'm so glad. But some of the things were concerning to me. Some of the things that I thought were done 2 years ago or a year ago, they came back in a very crucial game against a 6-6, now 6-6 football team. That's concerning to me. That's me being unbiased and realistic. A lot of fans are going to tell you they're hype about this win and we beat a 500 team. And yes, those are all true. And you're going to hear me talk about that on social media. But there's also things that we can take away because I want to go somewhere that we have never been in 27 years. I want to go to an NFC championship game. We play like this against the 49ers. We play like this against the Eagles. It doesn't cut it. But this is a good place to start because you did need a win like this to build off of this and to win other games. Because all these other games, buckle in. If this game was a 6-point difference and they were 6-6 and we were favored at home by 9.5, boy, we got the Eagles next week, though it's at home. Then we got the Bills on the road. Then we got Miami on the road. And then we got the Lions at home. Buckle in. Season has begun. And that's all I got to say. Thanks again for hanging out for the long video. I appreciate it. Exciting game. Game of the year so far. Dak Prescott for MVP. Comment down below. I want to know. And I will see you guys later this week. Enjoy the mini bye. Go Cowboys.
Prescott